Because it has a little helper stuff down. Oh, there we go. Maybe this works. No. There we go. That work? There we go. I know how to use PowerPoint sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can roll into. I meant to create one and then I got sidetracked talking, so I did not. Sure. All right, let's see. I spelled it right. So I'm Alec Harrison. I work for a company called Lean Techniques. They like to sponsor user groups like this one. We're based out of actually Des Moines, but we're a fully remote consultancy. So we help people build products, solutions, whatever, help them out. We hire people on, W-2. We typically are full stack developers. So if you want to learn about, Azure with .NET, or we also have some Java, AWS roles. We also have, I think, a couple React Native roles if you want to be a mobile person. Yeah, fully remote. We have at least, I think, last I heard, 13 openings. So if you look at the application page, we have a few of them listed there. I just got a message that we're actually looking for .NET engineers anywhere from, an SE1 to senior. So even if you don't see the right opening here, feel free to message me and I can help you out there. Yeah. Go ahead and close that. So I'm Alec Harrison. I am a newly staff engineer at Lean Techniques. It wasn't a promotion. They changed titles. So same job, just new name. I do mostly generative AI. I have a podcast called Engineering in the Loop, where we talk about just software development, engineering, and the loop part is kind of with the human in the loop aspect of AI. How do we continue to stay there, looped in, and keep building? But we actually are cloud agnostic, so they do a little bit of everything. So we have JavaScript roles. We had a client that was in GCP. We have some that are in AWS. We have some that are in Azure. Just depends. I would say we are currently a AWS partner. We're trying to become an Azure partner. So we're trying to get certifications and to do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say a lot of our business in Des Moines traditionally has been AWS because AWS is a lot bigger in Des Moines. But a lot of our new clients and acquisitions there tend to be in the Azure space. So it's getting closer to even, but it definitely was hey, we have a ton of people in AWS. We had one big client that was in GCP, and then now we're trying to level it all out to be even. But mostly cloud agnostic. So if you do one cloud and decide you want to move on, there's other roles to let you move on within the company, and you can try out different things, see what's going on, jump into projects at all different stages. It's kind of a lot of fun. And then there's always new problem domains too, right? So just because of how somebody solves something, that's, I think, the perk of consulting in general. It's a lot of different variety and stuff to do. Yeah, no problem. So we're going to kind of roll into this at a very high level. I wanted this to be kind of a showcase of some Azure solutions that are out there that you can deploy today. I think getting started in AI is kind of the biggest thing that organizations need to do. We have a lot of people who are afraid, either from governance, afraid to learn and do all this other stuff with AI. And they're kind of, I personally think, are going to be left behind. A lot of companies are going to learn to iterate quicker. They're going to build stuff with more. And I think that's been a lot of the tagline you see Salesforce saying with AI tools. They're not hiring another engineer again. or at least for right now, they're on a hiring freeze because they're just expecting that even though software engineers leave, they're going to see a high enough productivity gain with the existing ones that they're not planning on hiring. So I think less is more is kind of the way of the world. We saw Microsoft just lay off 3% of the company. I think across the board, a lot of people are trying to do less with more. And I think AI can kind of help fill that gap. With security, a lot of companies that are in Azure already have security locked down, so you shouldn't be too afraid of that if you trust Azure. A lot of Azure's AI solutions are still under the same SLAs. Your data stays in your Azure tenant. Your data doesn't go to the OpenAI models. It stays your data. It stays secure to you. So you shouldn't be afraid of security. Then that leaves the learning curve, right? I think these AI tools can help you basically decrease that. So the first one that I like to go to, it's weird, you guys can see that, but I can't. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, well, I can do this. So the Azure Search OpenAI demo is one of the earliest examples of AI that Azure put out there. So this one is maintained by Microsoft. It is an AI search. The easiest thing to do to get this thing up and running is honestly to open it up in a GitHub code space. It has all the dependencies and everything already to go what you need. You can create the code space on main, and then you can use AZD, which is the Azure Developer Console or client. So you can just run a console command, just AZD up. It'll prompt you through. They fixed it. It used to be finicky, but they will basically say, here's the list of regions that support AI. Here's the list of regions that support the deployment of the containers that you want to do, all that sort of stuff. So you can get out, get running, and get deployed. This is what the search looks like. I will give the caveat of down here in the directions, there's a cost estimator. It's about $120 a month to run this. There is a way to do it for free or cheap as well, though. The biggest cost, if we roll up the calculator, give it a second to load that estimate. You'll notice the biggest cost here is your AI search. AI search, it's quoting you at the basic tier, which is a $72 flat monthly rate. There is a free tier for AI search. And then it also estimates you're going to ask it at least 30,000 questions, which I don't know how much you pay with demo apps. For me to ask something that is just basically a glorified search engine on my data, 30,000 different questions, I'm not going to do that in a month. I have other things to do. So if you get rid of the $72 a month, get rid of most of that 30,000, you're left with $5. If your company already has some of these services in Azure too, they talk through down here how you can deploy it with existing resources so that you can save money there as well. So for this one, go ahead. I think if I do it here from the current slide, I can watch over here. So this is what the experience looks like once it's deployed. It's super customizable. So you can go ahead and throw whatever company logos you want, do any of that sort of stuff. It is built with Microsoft's, they have a fake HR system. There's some developer settings. So if you ever hear people talking about system prompts, it allows you to override the system prompt here. There's a temperature control, which is how you control randomness. So with AI, how much does it want to generate versus just citing a source? The seed you can mess with if you want to worry about trying to get token seeding working so that you don't necessarily call the AI model every time. Your minimum search score and ranker score. These two are for how confident you want your AI system to be before it gives you back a reference. The including categories, so you can actually have different categories here. Semantic ranker, semantic options. We can do a vector and text search, which is called hybrid. And then we can suggest follow-up questions. What that looks like in practice is I can say, like, what happens with this health plan? We'll give it a minute because the containers are going to be a little slow. So it actually gives us the citation. This is a great tool if you're trying to build trust in your organization with AI, because it can give you an answer. You can decide how much you want that answer to come back, but it also gives you the direct cited material. So the primary source that it's grabbing the data from. So if you're like, that doesn't sound right, I don't trust AI, I can go in here and actually read my own company's documentation that AI is pulling from. So this is just a very simple RAG system. You can deploy it and actually put your own files in the directory that it uses here and start asking questions about your own personal company data. If you're anything financial or in Europe, you have to actually have chain of thought reasoning as well. That is a requirement in a lot of their stuff. So you can actually see what that looks like of why it did what it did and it justifies itself. And then supporting content. What you'll notice here in this particular query, it thinks that all the supporting content belongs in page 3. You can also sometimes see when you're messing with this that you have supporting content that isn't shown. That just means that's what it thinks would support the answer that it's asking for, but it's low enough relevance that it's not going to show you it essentially. And then you can have follow-up questions. So this is a tool we actually used at a client to first talk to them about AI. I think their biggest pain point was they said searching at their company sucks. So we used this to say, okay, we had some non-technical but heavy manufacturing experts, and they would come in and say, okay, I have an issue with this part, or I have the issue with this machine. They want to pull up the manual, they want to pull up a schematic. So we loaded in the company's like 80 some years of data. We segregated it so that it could be safe and secure. And then we could serve it up by chatting with it. So somebody could say like, hey, my wheel bearings broke, how do I replace that? And then assuming our documentation has that, it would show that and give them the answer to how to fix that. We also built a feedback loop, which sounds way cooler than it actually is. All it is a blob table behind the scenes where you can just say basically like, this solves my answer, AI did a good job. Neutral, AI either said I don't know or didn't solve my answer, but the relevant material got me to where I needed to be anyway. And then there's like a frowny face for like, AI didn't solve my answer and it didn't even show me relevant information. That data can then be used to retrain the model or get basically put back into our vector database to say, hey, here's something that people are asking a lot. Maybe we put out some sort of other thing in our content management system as like a bulletin to say, hey, here's how you do this thing that everybody seems to be asking about. So then you're kind of retraining your system, helping it get better, showing potentially in our manual, when we do machine manuals, maybe there's information that's harder to find than others. If we see people asking for common themes or common things, might be a little bit too buried for them. So it can actually help us influence our publishing process as well. Let's go back to this. I don't see my mouse. That's funny. All right. And this is a rough architecture diagram. It's very simple. It just has an app server, which is just a container in this case, calls out to an AI search instance, which has all of our data chunked and vectorized. And then it calls out to Azure OpenAI, connects the two together, uses our data store instead of the web to answer our questions in that particular case. The AI Search Proxy project is another fun one. If you're going to run any sort of event, I really highly recommend this one. So this one is very, this will be interesting. See if I can actually, oh, slides are switching. I don't like presenter view. This one's a pretty simple one, but I actually gave this presentation, or at least one very similar at Nebraska Code. So this is a great one if you want to teach people prompt engineering, for example. It will stand up an entire Azure instance, Azure OpenAI instance, give you some unique session registration. It is tied to Entra on the admin side, but on the end user side, it's tied to GitHub. So you can actually give people basically access to your Azure OpenAI instance. You can do rate limits. You can have event codes that have a start and stop date so that they can basically essentially expire. You can give them certain resources. So different events could have access to different models depending on what you're doing. It's a really great system and tool to get out there if you want to start doing presentations on it. Here's kind of what an event looks like. You can say, have what it's called, all that sort of stuff. attendees can sign up and register. It looks like this, and they log in with GitHub. Then it uses their GitHub credentials to create them a unique SaaS token that they then can use to do your event. There's reporting and capacity if you care about that. But I think the biggest, coolest thing is it deploys a playground that all of your end users can use. And then they have a token that they can put in the corner to actually play with it. There's also developers. So the SaaS token it gives also is technically good for the API. So if you're a developer and you want to spin up that resource for them as well, they could develop directly against your API instead of having to use this UI if they don't want to. For workshops, I think it's this one. No. This one? Yeah. So the Microsoft AI Tour, this used to be the Open AI or Global AI's workshop. I think they rebranded it for Microsoft AI Tour, but this is just a MIT open source workshop. So feel free to take it, rebrand it, use it however you want. And it just teaches a very high level prompt engineering. So if you're trying to learn how to write a good prompt, any of that, it's a great workshop for non-business or non-technical people too, because then you can have people in the business. You could potentially index some of their data, give them access to that, and then they can ask questions like you would a ChatGPT. If you're also a very locked down company, it's a way to get your people ChatGPT without ChatGPT, right? So you can just have, hey, here's our isolated GPT instance. It's secure behind our Entra. You do have to have a GitHub account to use it, but it gives your business people the way to start playing with this, and they can start to see the power and hopefully then start investing in it without having to go, shadow IT or behind the company's back and potentially have data exfiltration due to people playing with AI stuff they shouldn't be, which may or may not happen at some companies. What that looks like from my side, thought I could real quick. Here's what the admin screen looks like. I'm just going to do this. Don't steal my password. So I can create events where I have the start, stop. I could create resources. So a resource is the type of chat client, type of embedding model, or AI search. We can also do an image model. So if I want to give people access to DALL-E, one thing that's really cool is I can set the rate limits. So that was one thing with Nebraska code that was really nice. If I want to give somebody basically an image per 5 minutes, I can do that so that they basically. Yeah, yep. Well, so in here, it actually just gives you the keys. So you can use any model provider essentially then. But what it does is I think it uses, I'm going to blank on the name, Azure Proxy. Oh, what is the API management? It puts a piece in between so that Azure, your AI Foundry model obviously can support a lot more than one image per 5 minutes, but it puts a API management layer in between so that you can dole out and say, hey, bye, Bob, I'm only going to give you one image every 5 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a 429 that you're trying to call it too much. And that's nice. Sorry. Yeah. So we'll rate limit you, which is, it's nice from a workshop. So you don't have somebody just like spamming dumb pictures and racking up your Azure bill. If you're like, trying to roll it out at your company, there's. Correct. Yeah. Right. Or if like somebody's just goofing around, right? Like if you have a workshop of a small group of people and they're just like, hey, look at this funny cat picture. DALL-E, when I was at Nebraska Code, I think cost 50 cents a picture. And if somebody's, sitting there for a 4-hour full day workshop, just making funny memes like that adds up. And then take it 50 people, you get a really big Azure bill really quickly if you're not paying attention. So it's really great for that. You can restrict who gets access to what models too. So just because you have a resource, you can then say, okay, this event gets access to these resources. And then you could even increase or decrease rate limits. This also used to be amazing for when Azure OpenAI didn't have huge token per limit capabilities. So it actually used to, I don't know if it still does, if you register multiple AI instances, it used to round robin all requests through it as well, because you would very regularly hit basically token per limits if you only had a single instance of a model deployed. So that was the other thing this used to be really cool for. Now token limits have kind of grown to the point that you're probably not going to give some random workshop person a crazy amount of tokens, and they're probably not going to have super crazy workloads in the millions of tokens just by asking simple questions. But in case they do, this did used to handle round robining as well. And what that looks like for an end user is they'll get a unique sign up link, and then you can give them access or give them this URL to the portal. They get an API key that they'll put in that's unique to them. So you can see specifically on the reporting side who's racking up a huge bill. You can then, they can play with system messages, all that, and then there'll be a tab here for images, assuming you have a Dolly image register or Dolly model registered to that event. So when they sign in, it changes the UI slightly. Then this is the API proxy. So it actually does also spin up a URL. So that token that they get that they put in the front end, they can also make direct API calls with. So if you want to walk through a bunch of developers, say, okay, we're going to build something, you could potentially use this and still be protected from a rate limit side so that developers aren't like DDoSing or just throwing your stuff in a wild true loop and just trying to hit the crap out of your API. You're a little bit protected there. Yeah, this project. Yeah. Yep. That's me. It's not that one. I have it here somewhere, I'm sure. It is right here. It's the Azure OpenAI Service Proxy. So this project is for the proxy itself. You can deploy it, again, with AZD up. Super easy to deploy, pretty painless. I think they have a code space that works as well. Yeah, that's actually where I deployed this one, is from a code space. It's a really great one to get started with. And then that workshop is in another repository that's also MIT. So you can tweak it, do whatever you want with it as well. It's open source. So if you want to build your own workshop for your company, or you want to start a training company, let's steal their workshop. It's free. You can do that. Might be some morals there that are a little bit gray, but technically, MIT allows you to do that. All right. We'll roll on to the knowledge mining solution one. It's still just not wanting to play good. This one's a little bit newer. So a lot of the newer ones they actually build out entire business use cases too. So like if we look at the key features, quick deploy is also step-by-step on how to deploy it. They'll talk about the products in it and like what they're going to cost. But they also start showing business use cases too, which can be nice if your company's like, hey, this sucks at our company. Like for example, like searching sucks. Cool, let's pull up these, start looking at business use cases of different models or of different deployments and projects that Microsoft has a quick start, because then we can deploy them and say, is this even worth investing in? This entire process, like all these apps can be deployed in under 30 minutes. With AZD up, it's probably more like 10. And then, hey, instead of wasting months, weeks, months, or years to say, hey, we built out this robust solution, you can deploy something super quick, have it secured, protected, and safe, and just say like, hey, is this worth even investing anymore in? Do the end users like to use it? And then your risk is truly super cheap at that point, right? You just deployed an open source thing, you maybe put some of your data in it, you blocked it off, so you're using Entra to block it with easy off, you're off to the races. And there's just some other information here. A lot of these have deployment guides, so they'll walk you through how to do it. I think this is the one, and this is how this kind of looks. The caveats of this one that I didn't really like, the code space isn't quite set up. So all the other code spaces have their dependencies defined in the dev container, so you can kind of just get up and run it. The other thing is it assumes you're on a PC, which I know right here they say that PowerShell can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Nobody's running PowerShell on Mac and Linux. Like, let's be honest. So saying that you can run PowerShell, and there's some PowerShell specific scripts down here. Yeah, right here. I don't think anybody's going to do that, especially if the dev container is not set up. So you could probably use AI and rewrite these if you didn't want it to be PowerShell specific. I just didn't, because I didn't want to do that. This one is actually one of the cooler ones I saw. And it was the first use case I saw of agent-to-agent communication. So the new term, the new hotness everybody's talking about is either MCP server, so the Model Context Protocol, or agents. Those are the two words everybody's throwing out there. This solution is a good accelerator to show you how you can potentially do agent-to-agent communication. And what does that even mean? What's a use case for that? Here's the rough outline of what that enterprise or the architecture looks like. Here's what the app looks like. You can customize it. They have the business solution use case. The quick deploy for this one, they do have a dev container, so it's extremely easy. You just do auth login, give it your tenant ID, and run AZD up. And this one I do have deployed. And this one actually got me super excited because I don't know about you guys. As a consultant, I've been at companies where they want the consultant there so quick, they don't tell IT to get their hardware and account set up. So I've had clients where we've sat around for 2 weeks at the client site, not doing anything because we don't have IDs to line up or to sign into stuff. So this is actually really cool for, let's talk about like onboarding a new employee. Maybe. Oh, it put the text up there. I just can't see it. So give it a second here. It'll create tasks. And this behind the scenes is using semantic kernel, which is a Python, Java, or .NET library. And you'll look, granted, all this stuff is mocked out, but what it starts with is there's two different agents to start off up here. There is a planner agent, which is basically kind of your orchestrator of all the agents. You have a centralized planner who says, okay, onboarding a new employee means we need to do these steps. And then what laptop model will she be using? It can ask follow-up questions to give you more context, but I can potentially start initiating tasks here. So I can say, okay, well, we did the background check. Oh, this is the first time. Want a Mac computer. Okay, so the plan was updated. So see, it even stopped me from continuing on with the onboarding because it needed more information. I can initiate the background check. That sends out a request. If you're a company that uses something like, I'm going to blink on the HR system, but pick your HR system of choice. You could potentially fire that off. You could build an HR agent internally that then goes and triggers that job. So the planner agent, if you look here, the group chat manager knew to pull in the planner agent to initiate the background, or sorry, pull in the HR agent to initiate the background, which this would be a function in semantic kernel that you could then initiate. You could put in whatever automation you need on your end so that can start being triggered. You can schedule orientation. So you could have a planner bot that goes through and just basically looks at everybody's calendars to schedule stuff. And see if the HR agent handled that. The other thing that's cool is it can also then know when to pull in another agent. So if, for example, set up Office 365 account, that is then going to go and do the tech support agent. So you could potentially, if you can automate, which a lot of companies do, the onboarding or scripting of that, you could potentially create an agent system that then starts onboarding, pulling things in. That could potentially be a Jira backlog item. So maybe it just like when you get to that step, it puts a task on a board, whatever board system you use for whether it's ServiceNow, Jira, pick your flavor. It could do that, potentially pull the system to see, okay, have they touched it? Have they used it? What status is it in? To report back here when it's done. Configuring the laptop. and then providing the employee handbook. Again, it's just showing that there is a group chat agent here orchestrating and moving different agents together. And these are all functions in semantic kernel. So while it is stubbed out, you can plug in your own internal code, and then it's smart enough to know when to invoke which step. And then in this particular one, they have other examples like buy an add-on packed, mobile plan query, draft a press release. So you can have basically different tasks that you're trying to do, and different agents will step in and try to help. So this one has a product agent, for example, to request an add-on package, and a group chat manager. So this one only goes between the group chat manager, the product agent, and the planner agent. So it doesn't go, different agents within there. But I think this is really cool because it starts showing you how you can potentially build. I think agents, in my mind, I'm starting to use as a single line of work or a single definition of a task is an agent. It does a particular thing. Then you can start building multi-agent systems in the same way we build software, right? Like you'd have a system that's really good at doing something. You then add on other pieces. Now you have potentially a multi-service architecture or whatever you want to call it, right? Correct. Yep. So that and that goes into depending on how you name your functions and all that. But yeah, it just so you can start building out single smaller agents that then now have benefit outside of just their one specific use case, because now they can be orchestrated to be in these more complex tasks. So yeah. Yep. Correct. Yeah. So you can build out single small functions that have small ROI, and then start using them as like Lego blocks to more complex tasks. So all these are hosted in my personal subscription, but they have GitHub. So if you want to deploy them yourself, you can. But yeah, it's all my personal MVP subscription. So, but you can go and deploy these. None of these require anything special. You can go spin up an Azure subscription, whether it's a student or if you have a Visual Studio Enterprise, and go just have at them. And then I have one more. So the agents, can I throw these? Yeah. Agents for enhanced customer care. This one's a little wild. It shows kind of how crazy some of this stuff can be. Where is hyperlink? There it is. So this one is a pretty complex architecture. If we look at it, it is using a lot of different paid services. So I didn't deploy it, but it's talking about how basically somebody could call, text, email, web chat into your system. You can have an agent or Azure Communication Services that can communicate to an agent to basically figure out what's going on, reroute it into a dynamic system. And then you can have Dynamics for Copilot 365 to basically pull any sort of information you have on that customer, so that when a customer service agent or a real customer service person comes in to try to solve the issue, they have all the information on the client that they potentially could need, or pull back relevant documentation that could help them solve the issue as well. This one, it's complicated, requires extra licenses. So you need a Dynamics 365 license to deploy this. You need a Dataverse license, which both of those are costs if you don't have them already. And if you look, all these have quick deploys, but this one's quick deploy has a 9-step prerequisite. And then it's starting to do a bunch of crazy stuff in Copilot Studio that I didn't feel comfortable doing and potentially paying for. So if you're in Dynamics, you have Copilot Studio licenses and all that, it's definitely something you can do. It's a cool one. There's also some AI ones out there. If you're big on .NET Aspire, I can send those links to you via Bob or post it in the meetup chat. But there's 2 or 3 good quick starts with .NET Aspire if you're trying to do. A lot of these are backed by Python. That's why I say that, because some people are very anti-Python. But yeah. That's what I got. If there's any questions, like I said, I work for LT. LT's hiring. Yeah, if you know anybody who needs a job, looking for a job, we are in, let's say 10 or 15 states last I knew. So I am one of 2 people in Nebraska right now. The other person's in Lincoln. But yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, for sure.
So, Alec, all the roles you're talking about are contract or full time?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Karthik said something, but I didn't quite catch it. I'm sorry, Karthik, my volume was turned down quite a bit. Can you repeat what you said?